Hey there. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be on this blue orb called Earth. It's 10 to 9 as I go live today in the UK. And as I like to do with blogs that I write, I like to narrate them as well to try and make them more accessible. And at the same time, what I'm finding is it's actually really helpful for my own learning to actually speak the words as well as actually type or write them. So a bit of a working out loud thing as I tend to do. This one's particularly challenging and painful with the tragic events of last weekend and also the ongoing inequities that we're seeing all around the world, which of course are not new, but they're becoming more and more visceral within my experience of life anyway. And what I wanted to do today was to narrate the latest blog that I wrote this morning. It's actually a LinkedIn post that I put out as well. But what you'll be able to do, you'll be able to find this particular blog called Joining Deeper Dots on hexochangenow.com. Also, if you're interested in getting one email on average a week from me, just sharing some thoughts, links to live streams like this, in-person events, and also offers for my support as a one-to-one thinking partner and interpersonal guide, then I'd love to hear from you and have you sign up. But let me just also share, quickly about an in-person event that is actually coming up that Joe Homstead and I are going to be co-facilitating on across the 20th and the 21st of July, 2022. A very important and almost sacred space, to be honest, a space to slow down, connect to ourselves, others, and systems. Really just get that slow presence, allow our whole experience of life just to slow down across 2 days and co-create the agenda, enjoy the space, leverage collective intelligence in the space, just really just have an emergent couple of days, something that a lot of us have never experienced. And indeed, why not run that experiment with this ridiculously competitive price that we're putting out for the events across the 20th and the 21st of July. Any interest, do drop Joe or myself an email or via LinkedIn. We'd love to have a conversation with you. So let me share my screen and I'll get into the narration of today. Again, it's a copy of a article pretty much that I put on LinkedIn earlier today. And it's called Joining Deeper Dots. So Samantha Sapaya joined me all the way back on episode 1 of the Activating Consciousness podcast by Hexo Change at the beginning of 2021. I can't believe that was nearly 18 months ago already. And it was one of those conversations that had so much more insight, wisdom, and depth to it, way more than I personally, as Gary, was ready to understand at the time. So my invitation today is for you to invest 30 minutes in this conversation and in yourself. Again, there's a direct hyperlink on the Joining Deeper Dots blog on hexochangenow.com. I'll just pop that website up again in case you want to go there now to click through. So listen back to this exploration as I did this morning, and this morning's Monday, the 16th of May, 2022, nearly 18 months on. The focus on her and their possible futures crew was and remains as follows. Regenerative urbanism. And quoting Sam, she shared during this conversation, this is important as cities are the main source of pain on the planet. Regenerative leadership, again, quoting Sam during our conversation. People with power are the main source of pain within our systems. Stories of the Global South. Quoting Sam again, they have been unheard for 600 years, and the stories of the Global South are also the stories of Mother Earth being destroyed, decimated from the system of colonization that exists to this day. And sadly, we've seen more fallout and evidence of that over the last few days. Quoting Sam again, those 3 elements are incredibly important because of what is not currently happening in the world. Bear in mind, this was 18 months ago. So for me, the intersections and linkages of these 3 areas of their focus are so crystal clear for us all to see, very much as this sort of systemic collapse is underway. What I mean by that is whether you look at the financial system, whether you look at the societal system, whether you look at the workplace systems, everything really is just dying. It's not fit for purpose anymore. And I've been on the verge of screaming this morning. And to be honest with you, inside I was very much. I didn't actually go out and scream, but on the inside, my whole body, my whole being was just like, my effing God. You just see all of these conversations on LinkedIn, on social media, on the news, talking about mergers and acquisitions and expansion and FTSE 100 trending at 7,400 points, foreign exchange, inflation. Important point here, comfortably focusing on narrow sections of diversity, equity, inclusion, such as gender, the nice, easy, safe bit, which a lot of corporates are going for. But the point is, none of this is focused on protecting and sustaining life. And what I mean by that is all of life, and designing for true equity in all of its forms. So yes, absolutely, in terms of turning around social and racist injustice, but even more than that, those people that have been oppressed and maimed and suffering genocide all around the world to keep us in our Western ways as we've got used to over the last several hundred years, and particularly the last 100. So Sam also shares that quote, tapping into our dark side. Part of it is imagining what we don't want to imagine, imagining ourselves in situations that we don't want to be in. If we can't even step into the imagination, what happens when we are there? We go back into fear. We don't enter those spaces with power. We don't enter those spaces with imagination. Closed quote. For me, we are there. We're in that space, the space that Sam pointed to 18 months ago. We cannot ignore the collapse, I don't feel, that's happening all around, but importantly, within us. Heck, some communities have even been experiencing collapse for generations due to our dominating ways in the West. I didn't see this as clearly as I did when doing some work around supremacy culture patterns with Heather Luna. We're now feeling it, we're seeing it, we're experiencing it regularly now in the West. It's been happening for hundreds of years in the global South and in countries we like to call developing. Are we ready for new conversations? My invitation, are you and I ready for new conversations and a focus, a decentered one centering those most harmed and impacted by our runaway, outdated and cancerous systems? Now, I use that word cancerous because I speak about my experience as Gary with testicular cancer, a real life felt experience of the collapse that's taking place all around. And what I mean by that, and I've written and spoken a lot about this, my right testicle went from the size of a pimple in the January 2020 through to being 8x, the weight and the size of a hockey ball within 8 weeks. And that was just one human being, one testicle. Imagine the amount of pressure that Mother Earth is under as we continue to extract and seek to do business as usual, and maybe tick an ESG box or a diversity and inclusion box along the way. So I speak about my experience with testicular cancer. This post is one that is constructive. Yes, it's direct. Hopefully it's provocative and a bit challenging, but it is constructive. Like, it's based on my experience of life and what's going on right now in this moment. But it's also an invitation to get curious, to look beyond the socialized stories and narratives that we are fed daily. We've been conditioned not to question. We've been conditioned to believe that there's right and wrong and there's nothing in the middle, to believe that they're out to get you, but they're not. These are supremacy culture patterns. Again, Heather, check out Tamar Okun's, Temaokun, Tamar Okun's work around white supremacy culture patterns. We've all got them, particularly within us as white folk, but we've all got them within us. We are perpetuating these patterns, and together we need to break them. And that's what I'm trying to do with this post, is to invite particularly my kinfolk, but all of us, to really understand and dive into these different patterns. We don't come into this world with these patterns, with this domination, this desire to harm and maim. It's all learnt behavior. So if you have kids and family, I'm asking each of you, if you have kids, family, life forms that you care deeply about, whether human or non-human, what happens to them if we continue the current business as usual approaches? This is all continuous work in progress for me, I can assure you, and it is. But bit by bit, us together collectively, can co-create new narratives if we choose to. As per Sam's quote during this conversation and the podcast title, quotes, "The world made us, we didn't make the world." So this is really visceral. I'm glad I allowed myself permission, to be honest, tonight to speak this and not just leave it in written form, because I feel like I'm processing some of the frustration and angst that I'm feeling at the moment around all of this stuff. And if you, as I work on a one-to-one basis with, if you're looking for a thinking partner or an interpersonal guide, and you work within the upstream or downstream from chemical sectors, so pharmaceutical, big oil, energy, renewables, food manufacture, etc., or you work as an individual solopreneur that's mission-driven, or a mission-driven leader of a small and medium-sized enterprise, I would love to talk to you. What this is all about, my energy here, I work in the corporate space. I'm very grateful for that. I'm trying to drive different types of conversation from the inside out whilst getting my day job done. And I'm also on the outside looking to try and build and hold space as a thinking partner, an interpersonal guide for those that are curious, that are ready to do some work around connecting these systemic dots, connecting the dots within themselves that may be perpetuating some of these culture patterns. And indeed probably will be, because we are all doing that. And it's just offering a brave, safe space. And some of the things people have said are such as, quote, I'm looking at my board here, Gary helped challenge my thinking about ideas that I had about myself and my work. Imagine what it would be like if these people that feel so on their own and radicalized had a space to think for themselves as themselves without interruption in a held, brave, yet safe space. We just don't have this enough. Someone else also shared Gary's support and ability to bring together points and summarize them is really helpful and aids my reflection. Someone else also said it was a life-changing experience. They broke through 25 years of internal blockage. So if something like that sounds like it could be helpful, set up a discovery call with me today. I'd love to hear from you. You can book that at hexochange.now.com. And I hope you found some value in these shares today. Again, lots more blogs on hexochange.now.com. I am never seeking to be right. I know I'm very, very often not right, and it's genuinely not the desire. The desire is to be curious, to be exploratory, to hold space for constructive debate and reimagining of where do we go next? Where are we going to go next with all this stuff that's going on? We can only do it in community, I believe. We can only do it together. And in fact, I had a wonderful conversation with my friend Johanna earlier, and we're really looking to bring some spaces like this into the corporate space. Look out for more of that to follow. And until then, be as safe as you can, thinking of those that will be feeling pretty rotten today. And I invite my kinfolk, those that maybe are sitting in a lot of comfort. I have that privilege to be able to do that. Let's really lean in and talk to one another. Let's understand more around why what is perpetuating these crazy situations where some human beings believe that they are more than and treat other human beings as less than. We've got to get through this. We've got to challenge this. We need to do that together. Take care, be well, and see you soon.